Well, I want to thank you all for coming today. As we draw to the close of 2021, which I don't know about you, but I'll be happy to see it in the rearview mirror. I'm hoping 2022 is better. But in lieu of that, one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I thought about this last year, was what would my word be for the year? And if there was a word that has been indicative of what I've been doing this past year, it's clarity. I've really spent the better part of this past year working on clarity, trying to get more in tune with what I need to be doing. And let me just mute everybody here so we're good to go there. I just want to be more clear about what I'm doing, and with that in mind, it helps me to kind of go down the correct path. So that's been my focus for this year, is clarity. And as I looked at the new year approaching, I wanted to think about, well, what word should I use to guide me into the new year? And I picked the word persist. In fact, hanging on my wall is a picture from a friend gifted it to me, but it's from my favorite author, Andy Andrews. And the picture says, "Sunrises proclaim the future, not the past." And so again, looking forward into 2022 and looking into the future, I want to look into a positive sunrise. And the cool thing about this picture that he gave me, Andy signed it, and he signed it with the word persist. And so I look at that whenever things get a little tough. And there's been some challenges for my family, and I'm sure for your families this past year. And so persist is the word that I've chosen to guide me. Now, with respect to that, one of the things that I typically do with content that I produce is I turn that content into an acronym. And you can see my mind map here in front of you. I want to go back and just briefly tell you what has transpired this past year. And one of the things was that I accepted the challenge from a friend of mine. It was a 100-day challenge, and you could do anything you wanted. And I decided I was going to do 100 videos over 100 days. That was rather daunting, but it also was something I wanted to do to kind of pave the way for what I intend to do in 2022. And this last gray nodule down here at the bottom, or I should say the one above it where it says 22, that's going to be my 22nd point for this presentation today. But anyway, I did this 100-day challenge. There is no way I could have done that challenge without the system that I'm going to show you this morning. And so let me show you this briefly. This was a 100-day challenge. And what I did was I took all these words that you see on the screen, everywhere from purpose, grace, empathy, trauma, try, iron, trust, dreams. I took all these words and I turned them into acronyms. And just let me show you one here. Dreams, let's go there. This word dreams covered days 38 through 43. And what I did by using this acronym, it allowed me to come up with different ways to talk about the concept of dreams. And I did this for every one of those words. And it gave me the talking point to start my video with. And then I just used that as the concept to go with for each one of these words. I did that for 120 days or 100 days for the challenge. And I said, I'm going to keep going. And I went for another 20 days, just giving more content with these videos. and they were 3 to 5 minutes is all they were. But still 100 days, 120 days in a row, I didn't miss a day, and was able to do it because of this system. So I thought, okay, as I'm going into 2022, let me go back to that mind map. And I want to look at the concept of persistence, and my word's going to be persist. I wanted to see if this system would help guide me into the new year. And so whether you choose a word or not, that's up to you. But what I want to show you in this presentation is how I'm using this acronym to help guide me through the new year. And if you stay till the end, I've got a free gift for you that will help you do the same thing that I'm going to demonstrate for you here as well. And then I've also got an opportunity if you want to dig in deeper with me. But let's go, because I'm going to not dig deep into each one of these, because this is kind of something that's going to pave the way for me, if you will. But what I've done for each one of these letters is I have 3 points. So there's 7 letters here. There's 21 different ways that I'm going to look to persist or help me to persist into the new year. And then I have the 22nd one here at the bottom, which is kind of my surprise one to conclude with. But anyway, let's just go through these. If I'm going to persist in the new year, I need to partner with God. Faith is a very big part of my life. And so partnering with God is going to help me persist. Now, there's a couple of bonus ones that go with that. 2 books in the Bible, the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs. I'm going to rely heavily on those 2 books to help me persist. So there's a couple of extra P's that I wasn't intending, but it starts to come out of me when I go through this process. So partnering with God. I also realize that in order to persist, I'm going to need to pivot. Now, again, I hope that you can listen to these talking points and you might be able to gain some insight into how you can persist in 2022, regardless of whether you pick a word or not. But one thing I noticed over the past year is there comes times that you need to pivot. You just need to change direction. It's not that you're not going toward your goal, but you have to maybe change direction toward it for a second. It's the concept in basketball. Thirdly, in order to persist, I'm going to need to pace myself. So I hope you see how this is starting to unfold. The concepts come out of the acronym as I flesh it out, and it helps me to tap into the creative side of my brain. And so that's what I do. Let me get someone else here. So that's the letter P. Those are the first 3: partner with God, pivots, and pace yourself. And this will be available on replay as well at the end. The E, let's see here. I'm going to need encouragement, and I'm going to need to encourage in order to persist. That's just one of the things. And I have people in my life, and I'm sure you do too, that you can lean on when times get tough. And in order to persist, you need encouragement. And so I'm going to rely on those people. I also know that if I want encouragement, I need to be an encourager. So that's just part of it. It goes hand in hand. I also need an end game in mind. So I've got an end game. That's number 22. You'll see in a little while. But to persist, you have to have a goal or an end game. And then you just have to be able to endure. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. And when you know these things going into it, it makes it more something more that you doable for you. And again, I'm not going to elaborate on each one of these real in depth. What I am intending to do as I go through this year is to actually build this stuff out, this content out further and elaborate more so. But the R, read. That's going to be a big thing. I have some books I got for Christmas that are going to be part of my reading for the next year. And I've already alluded to the fact, as partnering with God, the book of Psalms and the book of Proverbs, I'm going to do a lot of reading in those books. I gave 2 here because they're kind of the synonyms of each other, but reflection and review. I have to set aside time to reflect and review what I'm doing. This is a race, and it's going to be made up of sprints, but it's basically a marathon. This next year is going to be a marathon because I've set a goal for myself that regardless, I'm going to give this concept that I'm pursuing 12 months. And I did that, a test over the summer with 120 days of videos. So I've kind of got my idea that I can pull this off, but this is going to be a race made up of sprints and a marathon. So there's going to be times where I've got to go faster, but the end game, the long view is it's a marathon. And so I know I've got to pace myself for that. I hope you see how some of these are going hand in hand, because here's pace yourself and then the race. So what the acronym helps me to do is to speak these concepts in different ways that relate to me on different levels. Now I've got 2 S's here, so this is going to be interesting. Step by step is the first one. You can't do this all at once. And I realized that, so I just had to do a step-by-step process. The other thing that I didn't allude to yet, but I'm on day 360, I forget what it is, 64, since tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Day 364, I've been doing Inspire Points every day this year. And it's daunting to think back at that number, but here I am at this point in the year, and I'm looking at finishing it with something I've contributed each day to my community. Sharpen, that's another word for encouragement. And again, it helps me to think of it in different ways. This is from a favorite verse of mine, iron sharpens iron. So I know I need to sharpen myself and sharpen others. And then this actually built out into a sentence: scale back to make things manageable. Again, step by step, but I've got to scale back some things. I've got to make this manageable for me to do so I can persist. So we're at the halfway point. Is this making sense so far? Let me grab a drink of water, but I just want to see if this is making sense. You can comment in the chat if you would. Just let me know what you think. Okay, let's go to the next one here, the I. Oh, hi, David, thanks. I'm glad you're liking it. What program are you using? I'm using a mind mapping software called FreeMind. And as the name implies, it's free to use. It's open share software. I've used this for a long time now. I just love the way that you can build out these mind maps. And this helps me to organize my thoughts. I start, and I'll allude to that when I get to the next S, but I start with pen to paper, but then I take that information and I put it into this mind map, and that helps me to organize it and move things around. As those of you who were here before we started the recording saw me add a couple more nodules here at the bottom, because there's some things at the very end that I want to share with you. But yeah, this is FreeMind. It's really good software. In order to persist, I'm going to have to be incremental. Again, some of these are similar to previous points, but it's just good to think of it in different ways. Investigate, that's, again, I'm going to have to take the time to see where I am, where I'm going with this project that I'm going to be working on in the new year. So investigation has to be a key part of that, because if something's not working, remember up here, I've got to pivot. And so I know that this is going to have to be part of my game plan, is investigating. I'm going to do some internal work, and that's investigating how I'm responding to this and so forth, or how what I'm sharing is being received. And so there's going to have to be this internal investigation here. The next S, this is tricky when you have multiple, well, the same letter repeated, but you'll see what I'm talking about here. The word scribe, this might seem like a strange word to come up with, but part of my investigation process that I talked about here, and the internal part, is going to be accomplished by something that I have done a lot this past year for my clarity work, and that is journaling. That's putting pen to paper. And so I use the word scribe for that. So I know I'm going to be journaling. And as I counted out the number of journals I've gone through this year, there are these simple composition books you can buy at the dollar store. I've gone through 5 or 6 of those this year, just doing clarity work. I'm going to be a sleuth. Again, I'm trying to think of words that help me understand what I'm going to have to do in this investigation. I've got to look at the clues. And part of that is I go back and look through my journals, and I see things where I was during one part of the year and where I am today. And it's just helped me to do that. And then I put the word stoic here. This is based upon a book, or a couple of books I purchased this past year, and a podcast I listened to called The Daily Stoic. There's just been a lot of good advice and wisdom I've found listening and reading those books. And so I use the word stoic because I'm going to continue to investigate with that particular idea. And then the T, templates. This is a template that you're seeing here right now, and I will speak to that in a little bit more detail, but this is a template. And I realize for me to persist, I need to be using my templates. And that's one of the things that I've done a lot over the past year as well. I've used templates. And again, I'll talk to you more about that in a second. Tackle one thing at a time. Again, I can't do this all at once. And so I have to establish some kind of a system. That's talking more about the templates again, but whatever my system is, then I know I can tackle one thing at a time. And that's like this mind map you're looking at. We're going through it incrementally, one point at a time. So when I use these templates, it helps me to tackle those different things and then track my progress. Let me go back to this mind map to illustrate that. I literally was building this out, and you can see day 1 through 7 was the word purpose. And these are the words I came up with for that particular acronym. But I tracked my progress as I went. And so as I identified words, what this allowed me to do was, I knew with the word purpose, days 1 through 7 were covered. I never had to worry about what the next day was going to be, because I was always, I had the next word in mind. And so here was grace, and I actually had some extras for that, but days 8 through 14 were the word grace. And so I knew how I was going to proceed each day. And I did that again for 120 days using this system. So those are the main words of the letters in persist. And I don't know if you've kind of gotten some clues where I'm going with this, but the bonus one is podcast. Because as I go into 2022, I am going to be doing something that you could have told me last year, I would have said you're crazy. That I'm going to be actually starting a podcast. I'm going to give it 12 months, and I'm going to need to persist in order to do that. But I'm excited about it. I've been doing a lot of clarity work as this year is ending. And so come the end of January, 1st of February, I anticipate the launch for this. And I hope as I get closer to that, I'll let you know more about it. Love to have you listen in on it. But I'm going to be using a lot of these same ideas that were presented in this acronym, and then building out content. I'm thinking a lot of my content is already done. because I have 120 videos in the can. And so it's going to be a matter of repurposing them, seeing where I can do things with them. And let me show you how easy this is, okay? Because I can go and say, okay, here's a fourth one. Okay. Because in order to persist, it's going to be helpful if I repurpose. And so I'm anticipating as I work through this acronym that I'll be able to do even more with it. And so we'll see how this works. I've alluded to the system I've been using. It's a template. It's an acronym template. And before I get into that, if you have any questions or comments, let's just pause here for a moment and I can answer any of those before I mention the free gift I have for you. Anybody have any questions or comments? And if you don't, that's fine. I wanted to share something free that I have for you.
Hey, Tim, this is David. I'm another Daily Stoic guy.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, and Holiday has written some great books.
Oh, yeah.
The obstacle is the way and the ego is the enemy. So I really, really enjoy that every day.
Thank you. Well, and that The Obstacle is the Way is the one book that I bought from him this year. The other is Courage is Calling. I have that one. And
yeah, he just put that one out. That one just came out.
yeah, it's really a good book. And I really like how he formats his podcast because it's called the Daily Stoic. I mean, there's something every day. I don't know if I'm going to start with a daily, but I hope to build up to it at some point. So, but yeah, the Daily Stoic is really it's been a really cool thing to listen to and learn from this past year because I was introduced to him this year. And so that was really fun. And then the books,
cool.
I'm hoping there's another one, something about silence is the key or something. I forget what it is, but I want to get that one next. So,
well, you should ingratiate yourself and get on his podcast.
maybe sometime, who knows? We'll see. Let me get this going, and you just never know what might happen. Oh, and Andrea, okay, yeah, David answered that for you. The software is called FreeMind, and again, as the name implies, it's free. I just really love it. You can see up at the top of as I'm going across here with the cursor, I have so many mind maps. It's just crazy. But I've been working through, and a lot of this is stuff I've been working on this year with my mind maps. It just helps me to clarify my thoughts, organize them, and present them. And so it's not real flashy, as you can see, but it's a way of getting the information out. And so I love doing presentations with it just because you can watch it unfold and then I can collapse it and we can go to the next point and so forth. But yeah, I've used these mind maps for years. This is the software that I've learned on. I know there's other versions out there. I've heard of one called MindMeister recently, which has some free options, but then there's a paid version for it. And it has some really cool features too. So I'm sold on mind maps. Well, let me, if you have any other questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments, but I want to be respectful of your time. I want to give you the template that I've been using for this. And let me see here if I can do this. Can you still see my map? Can you still see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see, because now I'm trying something with Zoom that not, you see, stop share. And now I'm going to share my, okay, here we go. I'm going to share Acrobat. Okay, now you should see Adobe Acrobat. This is the template that I'm going to give you. Okay, this is the acronym template. Totally free for you guys. The cool thing about this, it walks you through the steps that I've been demonstrating today. Basically, you select a keyword in your niche or your keyword for the year, whatever your word is. You stand it, you turn it upside vertically, okay, like I did in the mind map. And then you begin selecting words for each letter. And I anticipate this content that I shared with you today being repurposed in other formats, because again, I wasn't using the word persist. It really helps me to see all the different ways that I can implement it into my life and use it to help me make this podcast a reality. So this is the template. I'll drop the link into the chat. There is a second page to this, and this is some software that helps you build titles and find keywords and stuff. If that's something you're interested, this is a sweet deal on it. Let me know. I mean, you can get it. If you have any questions, let me know about that. But anyway, the template here is free. Let me drop this into the chat. Let's see here. And I will, those of you who registered on Zoom, I think I'll be able to send this out to you with a follow-up email. Those of you watching this in the Facebook group, I will put the link to this template there as well. So you should see that in the chat now. Click on that and you can get the free download for the template. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, and this is totally up to you. I want to thank you again for your time. If you like this process, and let me stop the share on this and go back to the mind map. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, now you should see the mind map again. If you like this process, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. You can do this on your own, and I will also follow up with the link to this software so you can get it if you want to. You can get that. I also did a training earlier this year where I did a workshop showing how to use this specific software. I'll share a link to that as well. But there have been people over the year who have wanted a little help on this. And I have a link for that as well, where, let's see, let me get the link and put it in the chat. This is a 30-minute one-on-one mind mapping session where we would get on a Zoom call, much like we're doing now, but it would just be the two of us. We would get on a Zoom call and we would take your word and we would just build it out. And in 30 minutes, you'd be surprised how fast these things can be built out. I've been doing this for so long. It's crazy how I usually go for a walk and then all these words start popping into my head. And as you saw today, talking about this, I added another one here. So if that's something you would like to do, I'd be happy to schedule an appointment with you. I'm also going to put a number in the chat. If you use that number when you go to checkout, you're going to save a considerable amount of money on it. So totally up to you. But I know people have asked for that kind of assistance in the past, and we've had some great mind mapping sessions. So I will follow up with the links to the mind mapping software, as well as the links to the templates and so forth. Any questions? Because I know we've gone right at 33 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know this is a busy time of year, but do any of you have any questions before we sign off here? Okay. Well, again, thank you for joining me. You will be able to watch the replay. I'm going to post it on YouTube as well as in Facebook, on the Facebook group, Do More with Content. You can watch it there. That should help you kind of see how this software is able to be used. And if I can help you go further with it, let me know. But again, this stuff's pretty simple. I hope you love the template. Take advantage of it. I built a lot of content out with it. And so with nothing else, again, I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a rest of this year, good year, and I hope you have blessings in the new year. So thanks again.